Welcome. Such a delight that you're here, and such a blessing that we can continue this journey together. Today's program is going to be somewhat different in that as we, the little team that keeps putting this program together, keeps creating it as we go along, as we engage with the question of where do we go from here, we thought that, really, in a certain way, we've said all that needs to be said. Open your heart, center on what matters, do the beautiful. I can't think of any more guidance or any better guidance than that. If there is something we can do now, it is perhaps to more deeply and sincerely and patiently inquire with each other and within ourselves, where does this bring us? What do we do with this? How does this actually play in my life? What is the reality that we're experiencing here beyond the ideas and the words and the formulations? What is this? And so today we'll basically go in that direction of inquiring with each other and within ourselves more deeply into these questions. Clearly, by starting out with world worry, we certainly don't mean that we should be worried. And yet, there is something to do here, something to be done. What is that? Let's see if we can make some headway in exploring that together today. So to get us started in this direction, let me invite Kundika to share her thoughts.
Hello, everyone. Like Puran, I also feel really happy, good to see you. And I'd like to start off today by reading two poems by Mary Oliver. The first one is a fragment of a poem. The poem is called "What is There Beyond Knowing?" And she says, "What I know, I could put into a pack as if it were bread and cheese, and carry it on one shoulder. Important and honorable, but so small. While everything else continues unexplained and unexplainable. How wonderful it is to follow a thought quietly to its logical end. I have done this a few times, but mostly I just stand in the dark field in the middle of the world, breathing in and out. But mostly, I just stand in the dark field in the middle of the world, breathing in and out. And the other is a prose poem called Thirst, also by Mary Oliver. Another morning, and I wake with thirst for the goodness I do not have. I walk out to the pond, and all the way God has given us such beautiful lessons. Oh Lord, I was never a quick scholar, but sulked and hunched over my books past the hour and the bell. Grant me in your mercy a little more time. Love for the earth and love for you are having such a long conversation in my heart. Who knows what will finally happen or where I will be sent? Yet already I have given a great many things away, expecting to be told to pack nothing, except the prayers which with this thirst I am slowly learning. So these poems, Mary Oliver, touch me because it seems to speak so much for what I can feel. And I imagine that it's true for all of us. Isn't she speaking for us? Are we not all students of life? And are we not all slow to learn? Aren't we all finding out that it's not so easy? And finding out time and again, that what we thought we knew is not the truth with big capital letters. It's not the truth. And that we are having to learn what our next step is as we move inch by inch forward, not really knowing. We have every reason to be humble. And yet, so often, we kind of have this attitude of, I know, and we proclaim our certainties to others. Well, I think we need to come back to this question. What are the lessons that life is giving us now? And what is it that we need to learn with humility, with release of attachment, of what we are being asked to learn in this present world situation? What are the lessons that life is giving us now in today's world? In my opinion, we could make a start by acknowledging that none of the theories and solutions we dream up are certainties. And this is as true of our predictions of catastrophe as they are of our predictions of wonderful redemption. The human race may be extinct before long, or it may not. The human race may succeed magnificently in overcoming these major challenges, or we may not. We do not know. All we know is that we are but small players in a big drama. It may have been us that set off climate change, and it may be our greed that has been behind so much destruction. But it's clear now that we are not in control of what has been unleashed. We are not in control. And how do we feel when we face that? In the Love's Drum program, so far we have looked at world worry and at ways in which we can respond to that. It will bring us to greater feelings of community and resilience and hope. We're not naive, and we know that that's not the whole story. That's not necessarily going to be the solution to everything. But we do feel supported enough to face what is coming towards us. Or do we? Do we really? Do you really feel that? Are we feeling so confident and empowered within our community? Have we really overcome our anxiety? What about all our avoidances and our guilt and our confusion? Have they dissolved because we have thought about doing the beautiful and finding what matters? We the presenters of Love's Drum, the Love's Drum series, we've realized that very often we do experience an inner struggle, even while presenting a very positive message to you. We became aware of our own and each other's doubts and uncertainties and anxieties and avoidances and guilts. Even as we were sincerely wanting to do the beautiful, find what matters, and open our hearts. And we decided that this too should be part of the picture we present. This too should be included. We each in our own way have our struggles. For instance, when we read or listen to the daily news. And each of us have our defense mechanisms when we feel disturbed. Some of us like to avoid, not think about it, go numb. Others may become very agitated and overexcited and with all kind of ideas, hyperactive, distracting ourselves with excitement. Or we may escape into beautiful worlds of fantasy or nature or art or meditation, whatever. Anything but just be here with what we're actually feeling. But let us not feel guilty about that, because we're human. We all need support. We need to support ourselves through this. We are going to have moments like that. We are only human and we don't have any answers that are really up to the magnitude of problems that we face. And since we don't have the resources to quickly bring about fundamental change, we understandably can feel helpless. We are, after all, only human. But then the question comes, what else do we feel and do besides feeling anxious, defended, and helpless? What values, what actions, what realization do we come back to? What inner resolve do we land on again and again? What resilience do I find after all? If we are not in control and the future is uncertain, is there still the possibility of hope? How do I carry on and move forward and act to my best ability, even if it is limited, even as we fail? It is these questions we would like to explore through conversation today. First, it will be the four of us who are the presenters of today's program. That will be Puran, Isha, Bina, and myself. We will share from our hearts and in the moment. And then we will ask you to do the same in your breakout groups. And I repeat the questions for clarity's sake. If we are not in control and the future is uncertain, is there still the possibility of hope? How do I carry on and move forward and act to my best ability, even if it's limited, even as we fail? Isha, would you mind starting off this process of the four of us talking?
As I think about not being in control and having an uncertain future, Perhaps when I was 25, 35, 45, maybe, the idea that I was not in control or that the future was uncertain didn't feel quite so real and raw. But I suppose one of the things I've learned over these, I'd like to say years, but I'll say decades, is that I'm not at all sure I've ever been in control. I'm not at all, here's a weird way to say it, I'm not at all certain that the future has ever been certain. And I personally have begun to find comfort in that uncertainty. At the same time, this old, almost cliche-ish thought popped into my head, which is that a man proposes and God disposes. And it just occurred to me, and I found myself thinking, well, that's in the current time, that's almost a cop-out. I'm not sure what to do with that thought, that as it has occurred to me that, yeah, I'm doing what I can do, but it's up to the big fella or the big gal upstairs. She's going to take care of all of this one way or the other. Well, actually, the big fella, the big gal is the earth we're sitting on, and she's rumbling and roiling and sending some kind of a message, and I'm not sure what to do with it. I'm not quite sure where to go with it at this point in my life. I have grandkids around the corner. I worry about them. I don't worry too much about myself, but I don't know what to do with that. I just don't know. Any ideas?
Kundika, what I find so poignant in your questions from the first time you suggested them to us, the second question, even though I'm limited in what I can do, will I still do even as we fail? And we played with this, should we say as we fail or if we fail? But for me, as we fail, of course we're going to fail. Whatever that means, in a certain way, just stepping forward into the world with some conviction and already a success. But in terms of doing something so that something will happen, I think there's a very high likelihood that we'll never reach what we're trying to reach. And yet, for me, that feels not like it inhibits action, but it calls me to action. Oh, yeah, it doesn't have to work. It doesn't have to be perfect.
No, I think, gosh, there was so much in what you spoke about, Kundika. Thank you. And I'm just think of Mary Oliver's words. What we know is, we can fit into that lunchbox or something. That really puts it in perspective. But that lunchbox is important as well. And she said that. And so, for me, certain and uncertain, I guess I don't see them as absolute. I see them as in a dance together. And perhaps I've learned through experiences that the uncertain actually brings possibilities. And I think you said it, Isha, about there could be a certain future that could be positive or not good at all. But I think there's this uncertainty that can really open things up. And so for me, it's really important to be the friend of uncertainty, whatever form that takes. And I guess there's the saying, it's a cliche, hope is eternal, but I read that to be that as long as I'm alive, there is hope. It's like built into the DNA of being alive, until my last breath. So I don't know, I've been feeling quite hopeful, and I've been wondering why, because there's a lot that points to perhaps not being so happy about what might be, you know, what's becoming or what's coming around the corner. But I guess it's about this, what keeps coming up in the people that I meet and when I inquire within myself is caring for each other, being happy in our hearts, giving that, even as we work on very important practical things that matter to help climate emergency, to help equality, to help people who have food uncertainty and all of that, those really important things. The lunch boxes, the very important lunch boxes, but to do it with care and happiness. And I was talking with an eco artist the other day who said care is a form of resistance. I don't need to go and shout and bang drums. I just need to show care and our interdependence and just, yeah, so that we can be more conscious and more caring. So I don't know if it quite answers the question about uncertainty, but for me, uncertainty, I want to meet it with a real openness and curiosity because it's full of creative possibilities. And I feel that pulse, even with all the news, there is some momentum happening that I feel quite, yeah, it feeds my hope. Mm-hmm.
Yes, hope. I myself, I don't necessarily have hope for me or even those the people I know. Of course, I would like to know my granddaughter is going to be okay, but I don't. I can't say I have convictions of no optimistic views there. I mean, I think there are rough times ahead, but I have hope. I do believe in life continuing, no matter what happens.
Mm.
And I do believe there will be something worth dedicating myself to now. I don't know what that will be, whether it will be human life or something not human, but something will continue. There is a life force that is gonna be there no matter what my individual fate is. And I believe it's investing myself, worth investing myself towards that.
Yeah.
Of course, I feel devastated if I think of my granddaughter being caught up on all that. And that's the painful bit. But on the bigger perspective, I mean, we just don't know. And the world, the earth, the universe has been through so many upheavals and catastrophes and destructions, etc. But that always something rises again. Because I suppose I'm a real Sufi in that sense. I believe there is an underlying life force which cannot be destroyed.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of very deep in me. That's life itself, in the sense of this force in the universe cannot be destroyed, and certainly not by us. You know, who are we that we think we can destroy that? But in terms of my own fate, that's another story. I will do what I can because it's worth doing what you can, even if you don't know. And that gives meaning to one's life. To do what one can to keep orienting towards what matters, towards what matters. It gives my life a depth and meaning that I believe would be there even if there was destruction taking place.
You know, Kundika, in our conversations over the last month, where the word hope has come up a number of times, and I have experienced in myself a little bit of a resistance because hope can sound idealistic and abstract and ephemeral. And one of the things that in our conversations has come forward that I'd like to share with all of us is that hope is real when we make it real through what we do. Otherwise, it's an idea, it's a poetic idea. hope becomes the emissary of this very life force that you're describing when we do something, hopefully, right? Not convinced that this is going to make a difference, but hoping that it will. So I see this hope as the front end of doing. And as you guys know, I'm very biased at this point towards the notion that if this Living Sufism series has value, maybe that value will be manifested in the actions that we all take. Whatever those actions are, whether it's grand scale activism or personal changes or adjusting the thermostat, whatever action we take on behalf of hope, hope becomes real, hope becomes manifest. And for me, this is kind of a key thing, is that we come away from this Love's Drum series with something to do, something that we're going to do. And it doesn't have to be a grand act. It can be something very simple. It doesn't matter what it is. What matters is to what extent can my actions embody hope in the world.
Puran, I think that the truth of this is that to the extent we burden these actions with either demand or expectation, we limit them in their scope. If we allow that moment you're speaking of, that act that you're speaking of, to be, whatever this means, to be true in the moment and not worry about the next moment. Be true in this moment, to be true in the next moment. It is absolutely so that whoever we are, we each have only a certain reach. And that has to be a part of the acknowledgement of what we can accomplish. But to acknowledge that and accept that, that's a major step.
Yeah. And another slice to bring in here is, I think for me, part of the journey, or just this opening to how I feel about what I see before me and what's up for me, is that we have to, it's about saying goodbye to attachments. Talking about the uncertainty again, is about making space for something new, means saying goodbye to what we often do or take for granted. So there's, to me, and it's difficult to say goodbye to things. I mean, in my therapy practice, that comes up all the time, saying goodbye, leaving something that's no longer fit for purpose or is no longer helpful. And also, I hope I can find the right words for it. When I wedded myself, I guess, to the mystic path, of course I want to privilege our humanity, but for me, life goes beyond the human, and I think you referred to that, Kundika. And I think about how we look at planets. Can we sustain human life on them? That's how we define life. It's in human terms. But to me, there's more going on, and it's about, in a way, being open to that, even if it's an incredibly scary thought, that life is going to find, life is bigger than me thinking about whether I can still live on this planet or another planet. Important though that is to me, but I just put that in. If I really, really will hold true to this path of the mystery of life. Wait, was that a conversation stopper?
Well, no, I'm just saying
No.
we've completed this one. We may not have acknowledged enough that we have times as well of feeling really, ooh, because that's how we started. We're now a bit into, in spite of that, we have this wonderful vision.
Yes,
Let's also acknowledge that there are times that we go, oh, and we're scared, or it's scary what can happen.
Yeah, and I'm angry sometimes when I see stuff. Yeah.
That's really big, right? To be able to acknowledge that. And I don't know how to put it, find a way through it, find a creative outlet. I'm not sure what the right way to describe that would be, but that truth telling, it's important too.
Yeah, wouldn't it be that anger that we feel, the bewilderment, the confusion, the at times hopelessness, and the sorrow, the absolute pity that we feel when we look around the world and see people destroying each other. It's
Yes.
that those feelings are part of their components to a response. They're not obstructing us. They're not preventing us from responding. They don't need to be managed. They need to be integrated in our understanding of what it is that we can do. Those feelings are signs. They're signaling us.
But I don't think my feelings are only for the purpose of doing. They're also in themselves what they are.
Yeah,
It's about
we're
being
gonna.
what is. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Kundika, excuse me.
Oh no, I'm finished. I'm finished. Go ahead.
As we wind down, we're pretty much out of our time here. So, as we close this aspect of the session, is there anything in particular any of us want to add to this? I think that would be the time, and then we'll close and move on.
Maybe just the thought that each of us has something to do here, unique, something to offer, whatever that is, and to really inquire and discover what is it that I have to give here. It'd be helpful. Again, I'm biased towards action.
Yes. And each of us has the ability to open our heart to everyone, including ourselves, as we suffer through some of these moments of being in doubt, in fear, in sorrow. It's a heart-opening moment to be with them. Yeah.
Say amen to that. And Carol, I will ask you to take us out of the spotlight, and we will then be able to continue. So as we approach entering our small groups, I had a couple of thoughts I wanted to share. Things that have occurred to me more recently about relationships, connections, communication, and particularly as they relate to our small group settings that are coming up today. You know, most often we talk about having an adab. We're advising on behavior, you know, the etiquette, and that will include advice like appreciating silence, fully listening, bringing sincerity and respect, being courteous, generally avoiding conflict or disagreements. A kind of refinement in how we spend our time together. And this is absolutely all right, appropriate, and today as applicable as any other time. I also want to bring forward something more, a slightly different angle or approach in thinking about this. And I'm going to call it, for the fun of it today, the art of the small group. I want to suggest that time in a small group is an opportunity for creativity. It's a time for allowing our imagination to rest with us. Let's call it a creative presence that we might bring. Some of the qualities which might imbue this creative presence that we bring to a small group, or to any group, or any conversation for that matter, are very much what we talk about, of course, when we use the word adab and unpack that. But some other offerings I want to make as we approach the small groups. Make it real. Make it real. And make it real by reflecting upon and communicating what you feel from what we like to call felt experience, not just what you think. Keep it personal. This is where, in the personal, this is where we are most creative, also most vulnerable, and also most available. Accept that what may come up, what might occur in these meetings, in these conversations, can stimulate something more than what you have expected or what you have planned. Allow for the possibility of spontaneity in the moment. Allow for that oh or aha moment, something unexpected. As you take the themes or questions we suggest into your small groups, see if you can leave your certainty at the door just for this little while. What happens when I'm not sure, when I allow uncertainty, I find that I am more accessible. I enable alternate realities. I discover, as it were, that I don't need to be right. I believe this creative space I am imagining is a space with an open heart. Perhaps more accurately, more hopefully, I can imagine that the space is an open heart. So now, as we are entering our small groups, bringing, carrying, being that open heart, we will be taking around 30 minutes for these groups. The groups will be slightly larger, hence a little more time. You'll receive a heads up that time is ending with a couple of minutes left. Again, here are the questions we're suggesting for your consideration. If we are not in control and the future is uncertain, is there still the possibility of hope? And how do I carry on? How do I move forward and act to the best of my ability, even if it is limited, even as we fail? As you begin to enter your smaller groups, which will start now, this transition, please do remember to enter gallery view.
We are going to enter into a different conversation now through a guided contemplation. Invoking the imaginal, you will be immersed in the natural world with opportunities to explore and make intimate connections. Throughout, my voice will be guiding you with pauses to allow for your own reflections. First, get comfortably seated, making sure you are well supported. When you are settled, focus on the sensation of your breath to do a brief audit of your body from head to toe. Breathing in, you give attention to the parts in you that need it. Breathing out, you release tension. You may wish to close your eyes as you do this, and I would suggest keeping your eyes closed throughout the contemplation. But if you would prefer your eyes open, then keep your gaze soft if you can. Breathing in, you give attention. Breathing out, you release tension. Having become relaxed yet alert, take a few deep breaths, clearing your mind with each out breath. Now, imagine you are in nature, a place that is wild, not cultivated nor farmed. You are alone, yet you are safe. It is early morning on a clear, sunny day. The temperature is comfortable and the air is sweet and fresh. Feel the vibration of this place. Just feel it. It brings you into harmony with the subtle energies here. As you look around, you notice up ahead a structure protruding from the ground. The structure just coming out from the ground. From where you are, it looks like a mound of earth. The same red brick color as the soil around it. As you approach, you notice this remarkable structure which reaches almost your shoulder height, is formed of intricate shapes and apertures, as if it has been sculpted. Its form is exquisite. You now recognize it as a termite hill. Coming up close, walking around it, you can see the inhabitants scurrying around, being industrious. Take a moment or so to notice how closely they work together, supporting each other and their community. They are one organism. As you watch these termites, reflect on your connection to the community where you live and other communities dear to you, which may be further away or scattered. How are you connected? What is your role? what connects you to these communities. In this moment, what can the termites teach you? Now go inside of yourself and bring your awareness to your bodily functions, how everything works together as one being to sustain you. Your inner termite hill. You are in conversation with this termite hill, within and without. This wild place is not silent. Whether you are sitting or walking around, you hear the hum of insects, the call of an animal up there in the distance, the sound of birds all around you, some in flight, some close to the ground, feeding, communicating, calling out to each other. All these different sounds are making music. And you are here in the midst of it. A breeze has come up. You feel it on your skin, just touching the hairs on your skin, brushing against your cheeks, as if it's saying hello to you. Just take a moment to feel this sensation of the breeze on your skin in this wild place. With the breeze, you notice the sounds of leaves, the sound of leaves rustling, making you aware of the trees behind you. You turn and decide to approach the trees to get closer. As you do, you can feel the vibrancy of their rootedness. They're like guardians. You may want to put your arms around a trunk and tune into the sap rising. You are welcoming the shade. you're drawn to one tree in particular, and as you come close to it, you notice at the base there are fungi of weird shapes and colors. Take a moment or two to contemplate the close relationship between fungi and trees, how interdependent they are. You know, below the surface of the soil, fungal networks are transmitting vital information, creating a web which sustains life. And here you are, witness to this. In this moment, that's all that you're focusing on. And you reflect on your link with fungi, knowing half of your DNA is shared. And you reflect too on its role in fermentation. The alchemy of evolving forms. Affecting you personally, strengthening your microbiome, your whole digestive system, and essential for your health. Here you are. Your body humming along with the fungi and the trees. Before taking your leave of this place, you walk back towards the termite hill where you started your exploration. And beyond this termite hill, you see the edge of the lake. And you walk towards this lake that glistens in the sun. So blue, almost like sapphire. Coming to the edge, you notice how clear and clean the water is. As you bend down to splash your face, it's as if you can see the world reflected in the water. There are images of people from all countries, all corners of the world. Creatures of all descriptions. Sky and clouds. Trees, rocks, bushes and mountains. Wildflowers. All this is unfolding before you like a dream as you gaze into the mirror of this lake. So much beauty and diversity. it is deeply emotional to see and feel all of this. It is truly the lake of awareness which holds everything. Nothing is excluded. You hear a whisper coming up from the water. Love's drum is the beating heart of nature, pulsing through us all, giving life. Being with all this, what message is life offering you in this moment? As you listen with your whole body, your heart open, what is life's message for you? And should there be a wish in you to be more in balance, more attuned, you can ask life for guidance. Ask anything. Prepare now to make your departure from this place. As you leave, you give thanks. Your heart is filled with gratitude. When you are ready, come back into your room, wherever you are, your seat. Just take a few moments to be here now, opening your eyes, regrounding yourself. Quran will be returning to close today's session. And after we have concluded, you may wish to make some notes of your experience. Thank you. Thank you for participating.
Thank you, Bina. Thank you all for joining us. We had thought of a chilla to continue the chilla that was offered last month. And we'll provide instructions for that chilla on the email that we send to you with the recording of this session on Tuesday or Wednesday at the latest. In that email, you'll also find a new video that we've made called Love's Drum, which begins to explore Love's Drum. But I would suggest that continuing with the experience that Bina has guided us to, thank you, the experience of connection and gratitude, I would suggest that we might want to go further into this experience, into this world, and that at times over the coming month, maybe once or twice a week, or maybe every day, to reconnect with the termites and the fungi and the life around us, feeling the connection and feeling the gratitude. And ask yourself, what message is life giving me now? And write it down. And to the best of our ability, can we follow the instructions that life is giving us now? This imaginal space that we've landed in today is precious, in my view, and one where we can derive an enormous amount of understanding and insight beyond the words, beyond the ideas, beyond the constructs, beyond the practices, to feel what Love's Drum is really offering us. I ask you please also in the email that we send to you on Tuesday or Wednesday, there'll be a link to the community album. I hope that some of you will feel inspired and motivated to contribute to that album. Some of you have. It may be that this provides us a forum where after Living Sufism is concluded in June, we might continue to share how it is that we are experiencing Love's Drum and how it is manifesting in ways that we can contribute, participate, engage with the world around us to offer whatever it is that life herself is instructing us to. Thank you so much. This is such quite a journey that we're on together. I'm deeply grateful for all of you and for the beloved that is making this happen. God willing, we will see you all next month for our final session of Love's Drum. God bless. Be well. Thank you so much.